Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. So I've had this game Season, A Letter to the Future on my mind for quite a long time now. Actually, I was attempting a prison break back in 2020 when I was still working at Ubisoft Montreal to find work elsewhere. And one of the local Montreal studios I did try to find work at was Scavenger Studio. I'll admit I was never that interested in their first game, Darwin Project, but after having some interviews and seeing the reveal of their next project Season at the Game Awards of 2020, I was instantly intrigued. Obviously, things didn't work out and I didn't end up working for them. I was in that weird limbo period of my career where I was having quite a bit of experience, but not quite enough to breach into the senior level design category. So unfortunately, they did reject my profile. But I always kept my eyes peeled on this game because from the beginning, my spidey sense was tingling and telling me there's something special about this game. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, the game did realize its potential. Help get your bearings on the kind of experience you'd be embarking on. You play as a young woman who leaves her village for the first time in her life to explore and capture the sounds and visuals of the landscapes and memories of its people before a cataclysmic event. It's a quiet, meditative, and deeply intimate experience with a rather minimalist approach to gameplay. On your journey, you're equipped with nothing but a camera, a recorder, and a trustworthy bicycle. The game may be too much of a slow burn for some folks, especially with the game's introduction, which locks you in your mother's home as you prepare to leave for your pilgrimage. But the moment you do leave your home, the game becomes simply breathtaking. This is one of the most calming gaming experiences I've ever had the pleasure of losing myself into. The art style is to die for, and the vistas are simply awe-inspiring. I have absolutely no problem soaking in the world while peacefully riding my bicycle for an extended period of time. And I gotta say, I love how sober the game's UI is. There is no in-game marker telling you where to go next. Instead, it's the game's stellar visual composition through its expert use of colors and shapes that naturally invites you to explore unique areas. It's 100% show and tell for both the level design and the narrative mise-en-scène elements. And though we've been introduced to the concept of taking pictures and recording audio of locations you visit, I honestly didn't fully appreciate just how beautiful and how attached they would become to my journal. Essentially, you have a page dedicated to each location you discover on your journey. You arrange your pictures and whatever unique items you would find from the locations you visit, and you composite them in a unique fashion to tell that story of that place. You might not realize it with just one page, but give the game a bit of time, and once you've filled up a few of these pages, it built into this incredible montage of memories. And it is genuinely gorgeous to look at. I would periodically invite my girlfriend over to just show the locations I visited through my scrapbook, and it was always a beautiful and heartwarming occasion. We were both completely dumbstruck by the beauty of it. It's also worth knowing that what you choose to put in there is entirely up to you. So it ends up being deeply personal and intimate in a way few games succeed at. That passion that arose from these beautiful memories embedded in my journal give me this intrinsic motivation to just explore as much of the world as I could. And on that note, I love the variety here. And each location has its unique flavor, and they all stand out separately and clearly in my mind, even today. Honestly, it's one of my favorite exploration games I've had the pleasure of playing in quite a while. It's a wonderfully simple and unique premise that this game has, and is only heightened by this deep mystery in the world. The writing is poetic and deeply philosophical. This is absolutely the kind of game you should take your time exploring, and to then discuss it with your friends and family. The solid voice acting talent of the rare characters you do meet in this desolate world helps give the game further weight and a hopeful connection to humanity. And of course, I can't forget to sing my praises for a heartwarming yet melancholic soundtrack for this game. I dare say it's quite a quiet and barren gaming experience, but when there is music, it is wonderfully comforting and quite memorable. Truly, there's this serene lullaby quality and this aura that emanates from this game that I find sensational. However, there are a host of relatively minor issues that do stack up quite a bit. The biggest offender has to go to the rather sluggish 3Cs. The game achieves a nice balance between macro exploration on the bike and micro exploration on foot within the discovered locations. But unfortunately, it always feels cumbersome navigating around collisions. This applies both on foot and on the bike, but especially for the bike. You'll be riding along your bike only to bump into a rather minor collision that completely stops you in your track. It's a flow curve that happens much more often than it should. And it doesn't help that navigation feels extremely stiff on the bike. Now, I know that they're making a slow burn, contemplative narrative experience. We're not making Tony Hawk over here, but some finesse towards the bike navigation, especially when the entire game revolves around this mechanic, would have been a good idea and a nice to have. On a similar note, I do find it rather disappointing that there's no personalized animation for picking up the bike when you're walking up to it. It literally just teleports into your hands. It's not a deal breaker, but there are quite a few moments like this where I find that the animations are rather janky and they do break my immersion ever so slightly. The main offender is probably the frequency at which it happens. And speaking of animation, I do wish that the characters you meet in the world had more love given to them in terms of animation. There are so few characters that any additional layer of polish would have gone a long way to give them character. They have no lip syncing and their movements are rather wooden. Also, I may be the only person in the world to think this, but there's something rather uncanny about their hands. They seemed rather large and a bit too long for the fingers. Honestly, I had terror memories from my childhood of when I discovered salad fingers. Anyway, another oddity for me is that our protagonist has quite a lot to say on the world and the people she meets along her journey, but as far as I can remember, she never actually participates in the dialogue with the characters she comes across. You do have a few dialogue options you can choose from, but she never actually speaks. It does feel like a missed opportunity and rather inconsistent. It's a real shame because, like I said before, the voice acting is solid. Additionally, there are a handful of bugs that I encountered in the season. There are constant popping shadows and Z fighting to be seen. And on several occasions when you're looking first person to take that perfect shot from the camera, or when you're trying to strafe and position yourself for the perfect beauty shot, the camera has jittered quite a lot in a very distracting way. One time, I even had an NPC completely vanish on me only to reappear in another part of the world. It's also possible to get stuck in collision, and I dare say I'm positively shocked that in the main menu you have a button to unstuck yourself. I mean, better to have this band-aid solution rather than having a walkthrough break, but damn, when was the last time we saw that kind of feature in the main menu? For me, this is a symptom of a lack of polish. And speaking of pausing, I was super annoyed that every time I'd be riding the bike and I'd want to pause for just a moment, the game removes you from the bike every time you unpause. Was this really necessary? Of course, it's not a deal breaker, but it just adds friction to a gameplay sequence which didn't need it. Oh, and before I forget, I do think it's a cool idea to have the pedaling mechanics tied to the triggers of the PS5's adaptive triggers. Yet another great example of how cool that PS5 controller is. Finally, it would have been nice to have a more robust picture editing system in Season. It's no secret that I love what I've done in my journal and the memories I've created, but there are some basic functions that I find missing that should be a no-brainer to be included here. Stuff such as snap rotates, or to snap a line on another object for perfect alignment, or even a crop image, to just chop off a piece of a picture you took so you can fit even more pictures on that one page. I am honestly surprised that that last one was not a feature developed. Yet, even with those complaints, I really love my time with Season A Letter to the Future. I greatly enjoyed the game upon finishing it, but really its power came after the credits have rolled. I find myself regularly reflecting on what I experienced, and my memories and emotions only seem to deepen as time goes by, which is perfectly fitting to the game's core message. It's a rather lo-fi gaming experience, which might not be suitable for most people, but for my part, I absolutely adored it. I am going to give Season an 8.5 out of 10. Am I a bit mad that Scavengers rejected my candidacy as the level designer for Season? Not really, honestly, I'm super thrilled of where I am today. I think it really was meant to be, and I am in the perfect place right now. That being said, I am overjoyed to see that this game came out as good as it did. Bravo everyone. And that is all for today. With this game completed, I can now peacefully focus on Hogwarts Legacy and take my time exploring that world, as I'm sure everyone else on planet Earth who is a gamer is doing right now. In the meantime, I do have more videos that are cooking, and they will be out before you know it. So until then, as always, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you soon.